All right, everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Bilal Johnson. I am the Financial Center Manager at Kings Drive with Fifth Third Bank. I have a passion for financial literacy and just getting that information out to people to make the biggest impact on their lives as possible. And this young lady.
My name is Jennifer Rizon. I'm the Financial Center Manager for our Wilkerson locations. I am going to be Bilal's wing woman today, and I get to do the fun stuff, hand out goodies for participation.
My name is Janine Winchester, and I'm the Financial Wellness Director here in the state of North Carolina and South Carolina. I work with colleges, companies, nonprofits to supply financial wellness, right? So financial literacy is so very important, and you guys are at the perfect stage of life to get some great habits established so that you'll carry them through on your lifetime. So we all have been in banking for many years, and we see individuals that are adults that didn't get the literacy they needed when they were your age. And so now they are really trying to catch up on their savings, trying to catch up on maybe repairing credit and in other variations.
Mhm.
So I'm going to let Bilal take it from here, and he's going to talk about strategies to slash debt.
Thank you. We appreciate it, Janine. So, strategies to slashing your debt. Just a few things that I want to discuss in this deck. Maybe we might be having some difficulties.
Is the clicker? Check the clicker to see if power's on the side.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, wait, let me. Yeah, it's on.
I'll advance for you.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
All right, perfect. So, strategies to slash debt. Great thing I have the hard copy with me. Fact or fiction? All right, awesome. You should always pay off your debts, highest interest rate debts first. Highest interest rate debts first. Is that true or false? Fact or fiction? Fact. Fiction. Yes. So we're going to get into it just a little bit, but you start with your smallest debt and then work your way from that point. The next one is.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Playing with the clicker.
No worries. The average U.S. household has over $7,000 in credit card debt. Fact or fiction? Over $7,000 in credit card debt. Average household. Fact? Good deal. It is a fact. That is very true. The average American household does have over more than $7,000 of debt. So building your savings should always be your first priority, guys. Is that fact or fiction? I think that's kind of a trick question. I'll give you some. I'll give you a hint. It's just a trick question. So we say fact or fiction, but we'll unpack as the why behind it and as we have this conversation. Okay. So slashing your debt.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah. Okay.
One more for me, please.
Yep.
Low to high. So the low to high approach or a debt snowball. So what we typically are asking of people as they're taking care of their debt or removing some debt is start with the lowest debt possible. Reason being is because there's a lot of psychological benefits and it actually gets some traction going for you because, hey, I got some success here. So what it does is it empowers you to continue to find that success as people. That success releases endorphins that in turn makes you want to continue to do so. So again, psychological benefit of accomplishing debt repayment, and it reduces your risk number for creditors in case of emergencies, right? So just understanding, the less debt you have in the event that you have to leverage something, it increases your opportunities to do so in case there's a loss of a job or emergency with anything that you may be faced with. So low to high approach as well. So approach, you pay off your debt from lowest balance to the highest. In this example, if you'll look here, you have $50 a month to put towards your debt repayment. So you start with the lowest balance and apply the extra to that card while making minimum payments on all other debt. So if you look at card A, you have a 21% interest rate. The balance is $100. Your payoff order should be 1 here. Why? Because it's your smallest debt. So then you work from 1, 2, 3, 4. And you continue to just take that down. Right, guys, it's easier to pay $100 off sooner, or you could pay $100 off sooner than you could $400, right? Because your income typically remains the same unless you get a bonus or, you just might have some ancillary income coming in. But typically, if you're working just a full-time job, you'll have just a steady income stream. So then naturally, right, because your income doesn't change, but your bills are may be anywhere between low or high, we recommend that you take care of the lowest balance, because what you're doing is, I'm not sure how many of you were here for the credit conversation, you're taking down your debt and you're adding to your available credit. So because of the income, we may want to start with the smallest debt, because then that's not a bill that you no longer have to pay. Then you can move on to the second one. Does that make sense for everybody? Perfect. Good deal.
And then you take the monthly payment that you were doing on the first card and you apply
Exactly.
it to the second
Which
card.
is what I was expressing. So once you've taken care of the first one, any funds that you were using to take care of that, now you can use that same model, add it to, so let's just say if you were spending $100 or using the $20 a month model, right? You did that for 5 months and you resolved the $100 debt. Take that $20 you add the additional to the monthly payment here. Does that make sense? Perfect. So pay off debts in order from highest to lowest balance, pay off debts in order of highest to lowest balance, right? Second approach, absolutely. Oh, got you. Once your first debt is paid off, you can add that payment to your monthly payment on the second debt. It's exactly what Janine was expressing, right? So start with the smallest, then you're able to use those funds to roll over to add as compound to the remaining debt that you have to pay, and we continue to get the debt snowball rolling in that regard. Excuse me.
It's just the opposite of the high to low now.
High to low approach. It's just the opposite, as Ms. Janine stated. So you pay off your debt from your highest to lowest balance. So in this example, you have $50 per month to put towards your debt repayment. You start with the highest balance card and apply the extra to that card while making minimum payments on all other debt. So it's taking your smallest debt, your highest debt, making the payments towards that, rolling it over to the lowest debt, using those funds that you were paying off the highest debt, rolling it into the second debt that you're paying to add to the minimum payment that you're making. Does that make sense for everyone? Any way to interject? We're good? Okay, perfect.
Then you roll that balance over into the next.
Then you roll that balance over to the next. So after 6 months, card D will be paid off. Now move on to card C. Pay card D minimum payment plus card C minimum payment plus the extra 50. Do you understand how you got the extra to do so?
But as you can see, option 2 is not as fast as option 1, so you're not getting stuff paid off as fast.
Great call out.
The higher one.
Great call out. And just speaking from experience, once you have success, removing or resolving debt, it does empower you and inspire you to continue to, aggressively look to eliminate the other debt that you have. So these are, just keep in mind, these are strategies to slash your debt. But these are different strategies to slash your debt. So you could take any strategy, but just, sharing with you from my personal experience, the smallest debt, rolling it over to the largest debt is really the easiest way to do so, just because of the psychological aspect that it provides. Pay off debt in order of highest interest rate to lowest. So if you have a high interest rate, that's more money that you have to pay back on top of the money that you receive from the bank or your lender or wherever you may have gotten the funds from. So this strategy is imploring you to take care of that debt first. Why? Because that's the debt that is associated with more payback, if that makes sense. So if you borrowed $1,000 and the interest rate is 10%, then you have to pay an additional $100. If you borrowed $1,000 and the interest rate is 5%, then you're paying $50, right? So we want you to, in this particular model, we want you to resolve the balance that has the highest interest rate. Why? Because you're paying almost in that particular model that I stated with the 5 and 10%, you're paying almost double for a $1,000 loan, so to speak, right? So why would I pay double when I can just go ahead and just pay, take care of that, resolve that? I have $100 that I was already paying, and I could just add that on to the $50 balance that I was paying a month, and that's double of the amount that it was supposed to be. So therefore, I can resolve that debt in an even quicker time. Excuse me. Pay off debt from high, and here's the model of that for you, right? So card A has the highest interest rate. The balance is $100. Payoff order should be 1. Minimum payment is 10. Your monthly payment is 60. So we're resolving this because it has the highest interest rate, and I'm sure the next one is going to tell us, once we are able to resolve that, it allows us to add more to the second card option that we have, right? Does everybody understand that? Because it's the same model, but we're applying where we attack from. So does everybody kind of understand, the different strategies to the model?
So first was lowest balance. Irregardless of interest rate, you're going to knock that one out 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in agreement with Bilal. That's the method that I've used in my household.
Mm-hmm.
Because of then you can attack and have strategy, apply all your funds to maybe either the highest balance that you have or the highest interest rate, either one. But you're carrying basically one debt, and then you can now apply and have larger payments going towards that. Strategy 2, highest balance, takes longer to pay that off, and what I've seen is that you'll be in a payment strategy to try and pay it off, then an emergency will happen, and it retracts and goes back up again, right?
Great
so you're
call.
playing the yo-yo on that.
Great call
Then
out.
strategy 3 is highest interest rate, percentage-wise, to reduce interest. It is a good strategy, absolutely. But again, you have to figure out, hey, what's your model? In this situation, you do have a lower. You're on that slope of paying down a lower interest rate. But I would employ that you take the low to high approach and the interest rate approach, and really
Combine the
assess
two.
what are my balances, what are my interest rates. So you can kind of put both of them working towards your strategy.
Great call out, Janine. Windfall approach. Pay off debt using one-time payment to allow extra money to make higher monthly payments on other debt. So as I was referencing about income and just income changes, you might get a bonus, you might get extra funds from somewhere. The extra funds that you have available to you this is pretty much telling you, take one-time payment of all the extras that you have and apply it to your highest debt. So what that does is, it changes your what you may have to pay on the monthly basis because you're resolving the principal. You're changing that principal balance, so therefore your monthly payment kind of changes a bit, and it does add to your, how you're. I'm not sure again how many of you were here for credit, but it does help with, how you're doing credit building and things of that nature as well. So this is the windfall approach. So the benefits: repay faster, reduces your debt to credit ratio faster, which could boost your credit score, as I stated. Ideal for people with tight budgets because it makes extra money available to repay other debts. So the money that you would have been paying to this high debt, you go ahead and unload, any extra that you have to that. That again changes what your monthly payment is because it's now taking the balance down a bit. You're able to, have leverage with paying some of the other bills that you may have available to you. Anything you want to add to that? Perfect.
Well, I'd say let's think. What could be a windfall? Where can you get a windfall of money as a student? Grants?
Myself, I got a refund check. I play sports, so I was able to get a refund check. And knowing what I know now, just sharing another experience with you, knowing what I know now around finances, I sure wish I would have did something different with my refund check. Family gifts, Christmas, etc.
Christmas. We see it at the bank all the time. Tax returns.
Tax
so
returns.
Come, March, April, people are getting these windfalls. We also experience stimulus checks over the course of 2020, 2021. And there's a lot of just child tax credits that parents are receiving. We'd like to say that they've been able to address the windfall approach on their debt. Oftentimes you can see, I see a lot of Louis Vuitton belts. I see a lot of Gucci belts. I'm like, when the windfall came and Louis Vuitton benefited.
That's true. That's a fact. That's a fact.
I've seen more Louis Vuitton bags in the last 2 years than I've ever seen in my lifetime, right?
To build on that, just real quick, so much about finance is about discipline and being accountable. So we can give you the tools, and that was a great point. There are things, we can tell you things or we can give you the tools to be successful, but you really have to apply them and, to your everyday life and be accountable because, those things do have some consequences for the future. So windfall approach, here's just a visual example of what that looks like using card D model. If you pay off the debt using large sums of money as they become available to you, what that might look like, paying off some debt using bonus tax returns, as Janine stated. Inheritance will free up money to make larger payments on debt. Not complete answer, but can be used effectively if the extra money is used for debt repayment. So again, you'll see what this looks like after from card D, how you're able to use that lump sum and how it affects your next payments for moving forward in the future. So after one-time payment, cards D and C will be paid off. Now move on to card B. Pay card D minimum payment plus card C minimum payment plus card B payment, and you'll have the funds to do so. Why? Because card D and C is no longer a balance that you have showing on your debt to income ratio. You've already taken care of it. Stop spinning your wheels. That's really, yes. Cut expenses. Create a budget, going back to what I'm saying, and sticking to it. Accountability, discipline. Those are, the two pillars, like main pillars to financial success. Just having a plan, creating a plan, sticking to the plan, and, being sure that you adhere to that. Don't pay full price. I've stated before, if you can pay minimum balances because of how you're receiving your income in order to, get more income to resolve larger balances, learn to leverage that. Learn to leverage, not paying the full price and why you wouldn't pay the full price. Now, if you have the funds available to you, yes, we encourage that you resolve any balances that you may have. In the event that you don't, again, we need to create a strategy to, take care of those debts. So that would entail you, and oftentimes as we're creating this strategy, not to pay the full price because, again, the income that we have is what we're using to take care of this debt. And if that doesn't rise, the debt's still going to be here. We have to find ways of how to leverage what debt we have and how we're going about paying it. So don't look at it as like, oh, I have to get this down. Yes, you do, but let's be strategic about how we're going about doing so. And hire yourself. What that means is, really pay yourself in the future, really understand what that looks like, leveraging the debt that you have now and how that affects you or with consequences in the future. So hire yourself, understand, like, I have to pay myself, I have to make decisions now for the future self, and treat yourself as a consultant to your own. So, like, each one of you are individuals and should act as business entities yourself, and you should hire yourself to manage your business entity. Anything?
Yeah, I mean, some of us have like special talents.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe you're artistic and you can teach an art class, or maybe you play soccer and you want to like teach a youth group. Different talents that you have can actually have earned income. So if you think about it that way as well. So.
Great call out, Janine, especially to the athletes. And now, because again, I played football, so with some of the NIL stuff, guys, if you have camps, if you can put a camp together or a clinic, please do so. Please get some, add to your income. Like you can go to smaller local towns that will allow you to, get a group of kids for the summer. And I mean, it doesn't have to be exorbitant amount of money. You can charge $10 per kid, and just really host camps. But what that does for you is it allows you to add to your income. So I'm familiar with how the NIL is allowing you guys to do things now. Really use that to your advantage, because I'm of the opinion that it's going to be some regulations with that in the near future. So while you have the opportunity to, especially to my athletes, to get extra, think of all the different outside of the box ways that you can actually get revenue while still being in school without it actually, hindering you from your day-to-day as a student. Oh, increase available cash. Perfect. Have a yard sale. Save your change. Turn cash gifts into debt payments. Cash in on a talent, and bank your bonuses, right? So, again, financial institutions work for you guys. There are, just like Harris Teeter and Publix have sales, bank institutions have offers for gaining your relationship. You should really shop to see what that might look like. So we have one in particular where if you get a direct deposit sent to a free checking account, we'll give you $300, right? We are not the only ones that are doing offers or promotions. So really what that is telling you is to really shop to see, how your cash and how your relationship can earn you some money. So just understanding, that you can get money for having banking relationships with an institution, and leveraging that. So just having an understanding of how can we get capital, how can we retain capital, and how can we use our capital to take care of some of the obligations that we may already have.
I would just add also, we had budgeting, credit, identity theft, and now we're in slashing debt. Just as Bilal was saying, shop. Not only your banking institution, if you're paying a monthly fee for a checking account or a savings account, you're being feed by an institution, definitely look around. Same thing goes when you get your first credit card. If you already have a credit card, know what that APR is. What is your annual percentage rate? Shop around. If you've got some decent credit, you shouldn't be paying 26, 28%. Same goes with your car loans, automobile loans, insurance. All of these things that you're paying for, you are the consumer. You make the decision on the contract, right? So don't settle for just what somebody else told you to go do, right? Maybe I bank at XYZ Bank, and I'm trying to encourage Jennifer to come bank where I bank. It's great. It's got great service. Well, her situation might be completely different than my situation, right? From a carrying a balance perspective to everything else, and so you be your own best consumer.
That's great, especially because like in these rooms we're influenced by what our parents are doing, where they bank, where their relationships are. That's really a great takeaway. You guys are now at a point where your situation is different, so you need to really take that approach and saying, okay, what's best for me in this relationship? Like, hey, I appreciate that mom and dad were with Wells or whoever they were with, but maybe I need to look at something differently because that might not be the best vehicle for me or might not be the best relationship for me. So now, guys, we're at a point where independence and just the decisions with independence, you really got to be strategic with the relationships that you're building moving forward. Stay debt free. Stay debt free. Debt free tips. Remember the agony, like just having to pay bills. Like, oh my God, first is rolling around, stuff I want to do, I can't do it. Like, oh my goodness, do I really want to take this on?
And student loan debt. I mean, I want to just kind of talk about that for a second because having been there as well, same as Bilal, and you think about, you only want to borrow what you need. If you have to borrow on a student loan and you need say $5,000, $10,000, don't ask for 15, don't ask for 12 so that you can put some money in the bank account. You only want to really seriously borrow only the amount that you need because you will be paying that back over a long period of time, and it does carry an interest rate. And student loans are very unique in that you can't just refinance them. You can't just take them and refinance them like you can a personal loan. And so you got to be very strategic when it comes to that borrowing. And remember the agony, right? You're going to be paying on that. It might be deferred until 6 months after you graduate, but the likelihood is you're going to have to pay it back.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Involve your friends and family. Leverage the relationships that you have in order to see what you can do to remain debt free or to slash or remove the debt that you may have. If you don't have to incur other debt to take care of debt or consolidate in, so to speak, if you can get a loan or a gift from mom and dad and they're able to take care of that for you, leverage that to your advantage so you can remain debt free or get debt free. Build and rebuild your budget. Like, this is really important. There's going to be a lot of changes either with your income or the price of goods, as we're seeing now. So the budget that you were using last year is definitely not the budget you're going to be able to use this year, as the market has changed. And as time goes on, the market will continue to change. So you'll have to, retool your budget to really be strategic of where you're attacking with your debt and be even more strategic with how you're saving your money. So you're going to have to understand that, build and rebuild your budget. You may have, I would recommend, especially with the climate that we're in now, look at it quarterly. If you want to touch on it more than that, definitely do so. But really, you need to start looking at, how you're spending, or just get in the habit, right? So I'm sure you can go to the CAF. I'm sure you probably live in, on campus. So some of the expenses and bills that you may face when you graduate, you don't have now, but develop some of the habits that you'll need in order to, be successful and produce when you get out. So just, get in the habit like, hey, this cost me this much. I need to start being strategic with where my funds is going to. Frame the ugliest bill you have. So these two are tied together. It's going to framing the ugliest bill you have is going to help you remember the agony of actually paying. And it's just also psychologically, it's like, man, I did that. Like, I'm speaking from the perspective of framing it after you paid it. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, I really did that. I accomplished something. I remember what this was like. I don't want this to happen again. I need to be strategic with, again, the relationships that I have and just what I'm doing with the finances that I'm making. Refine your value system. What matters? What matters to you? I'm a big sneakerhead. I had to realize, like, as I was getting older, I had to place values in different places, right? So just understanding, like, what is valuable to you and where your values should go long term. There's great, it's good to get short-term success and to feel good in the short term, but also understand that everything that we do with our finances short term impacts our long term. So just making the strategic changes and just placing the value where it needs to be, placing value where it needs to be is so impactful with getting an accurate or just being successful in your finances. Save your old debt payments. If you remove a debt or if you're able to slash a debt, that does not mean you have money to buy shoes, right? That does not mean, that means you have opportunity, what I like to call opportunity cost. So you have an opportunity to save. You have an opportunity to invest. You have an opportunity to grow and expand because now you have capital to do so. So just because you free up yourself out of a debt situation does not mean you have additional income to do leisurely things. What it is it gives you an opportunity to grow, expand, and to get to the next level in your financial success. Okay, so keep the momentum. You will have setbacks in slashing your debt. You will have instances in where it's extremely tough, just like anything else in life. I think this is all athletes so far. Am I pretty right to say that? Y'all know about adversity. Like that's no different than your perspective sport. When things are tough, when it's hard, when you got to wake up at 5:30 to go to practice or lifting, when then right after that you got to go to study hall, like that's adversity, right? You want to win championships, you want to win conferences, keep going. So that's really, it's essentially the same thing. Keep the momentum. So, any questions? Perfect, man. I appreciate you guys. So, also, we have a $100 Amazon giveaway. Enter to win. Please stop by downstairs to see the lovely bankers if you have not already. And we also are doing credit counseling services. We're pulling Equifax scores with a soft pull, so it will not be a hard inquiry, just to see where you are in regards to your Equifax score and what ways we can help make the most impact with your credit. Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Yeah, no doubt, man.